Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
For 4.5 years, Adam Holloway believed he was living what many would call a peaceful marriage. He woke up early, organized his spreadsheets, checked the balance of their joint accounts, and made sure coffee was ready for Claire before heading to work. She used to say she felt safe with him, that stability was exactly what she'd always wanted. Adam believed that. He trusted Claire so completely that he never even thought about hiding his phone password, bank details, tax information, or financial transactions. Everything was out in the open. They didn't have kids, which gave them more freedom to travel and go out to dinner whenever they wanted. To their friends, they seemed like a well-matched, mature couple. But over the past year, something changed. First came the little delays. "I'll stop by Amanda's after work today, we're having wine at Lauren's, I need to vent with the girls, work's been too stressful." Adam, always understanding, accepted her explanations and even encouraged Claire to take time for herself. She said her clients had become more demanding, her new boss was controlling, and she was constantly stressed. He prepared dinners, left sweet notes on the fridge, and kept believing this phase would pass. But over time, she stopped responding to the notes. Started coming home later. Locked herself in the bathroom with her phone for long stretches. Laughed to herself. Made strange excuses when Adam asked simple things, like where she'd left the keys or why the new perfume was in her bag if she said a coworker had given it to her. What stood out most was how she reacted when he said he missed her. Claire used to smile, make jokes, tease him. Now she'd turn away, change the subject. Dinner conversations became silent. Adam, who'd always been good at reading numbers, began applying his analytical logic to his wife's behavior. He noticed patterns, inconsistencies. She claimed her salary at the office was unchanged, but the bank statement showed larger deposits, a raise she never mentioned. She said she was tight on money, yet showed up with a designer handbag that cost nearly half her monthly salary. New lingerie arrived at home, but Adam never saw her wear any of it. One piece still had the tag on. He started writing down dates, checking receipts, quietly monitoring spending on their shared credit card. And the more he watched, the more he felt something serious was behind her distance. One night, she left her unlocked phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. He didn't mean to snoop, but one name caught his eye, Marcus, work. What started as a video notification turned into a series of archived messages, conversations that looked deleted but left traces of calls. He couldn't access everything, there were passwords, folder locks, a digital setup that felt almost paranoid. To Adam, that meant a lot. Who organizes things so carefully if they're not hiding something? He began waking up earlier than her to check her bags, apps, and banking alerts. Nothing outright obvious, but the sum of small things painted a clearer and clearer picture. On a Friday, Claire said she'd be sleeping at a coworker's place because they had a meeting early Saturday morning. She said it made more sense to avoid traffic and that the girls were having a wine night. Adam thought it was odd, but played it cool. The next morning, when he checked the card's location history, he found it had been used at a restaurant across town. When she came home late Saturday, she carried a bag with bread and fruit, as if she'd really stayed with a friend. She hugged Adam, kissed him on the forehead, and said she needed a shower. That night, Adam couldn't sleep. He felt deceived, but still resisted the idea of calling it betrayal. He preferred to believe she was stressed, maybe struggling with her self-image, or just trying to rediscover her independence. But his gut told him otherwise. He tried to reconnect, suggested a trip, proposed couples therapy, but Claire turned down every idea. Said the problem was with her, that she needed space. Adam respected that. He threw himself back into work, but kept a file with every detail that seemed important, times, purchases, suspicious messages, stories that didn't add up. This wasn't just jealousy. It was method. It was survival instinct. Adam couldn't sleep that night. No matter how hard he tried to focus on anything else, his mind kept circling around the evidence he didn't yet have but knew was out there somewhere. He could feel the truth about to surface, not just about Claire's betrayal, but something far dirtier and deeper. For the first time in years, he didn't go to work. He stayed home. That evening, when he opened his inbox, he saw a new email with a subject line that froze his stomach: "You need to see this before it's too late." The sender was unknown. He hesitated for a few seconds, then clicked. Inside were 3 video files and a single sentence: "I'm not your enemy. I just want justice too." The first video showed Claire entering a motel with a man Adam recognized immediately, Marcus Bell. They hugged, laughed, and flirted in the parking lot like nothing in the world could touch them. The second video was more intimate. It showed Claire and Marcus sitting on a bed in a room, drinking wine and talking. Claire said, with a chilling calmness, that Adam was controllable, that he'd never suspect a thing, and that the marriage was useful only up to a point. She laughed as she mentioned that if she got pregnant with Marcus, she could use it to her advantage in any legal dispute. The third video was the hardest to watch. Claire, speaking mockingly, said she worked in strategic marriage destruction. She called Adam a boring bureaucrat and said what she and Marcus did wasn't just about pleasure, it was about power. Adam paused the video. His jaw was clenched, his hands trembling, and a mix of humiliation, anger, and disbelief weighed heavily on his chest. He felt like he'd been ripped out of his own life and thrown into some absurd script. But this was real. Minutes later, his phone buzzed. A message appeared: "My name is Vanessa Bell. Marcus's wife. We need to talk. I don't want to hurt you. But you deserve to know who you're married to." They arranged to meet at a quiet cafe the next morning. Vanessa arrived with a firm posture and tired eyes. She carried a thin folder in her hands. Adam wasn't sure where to begin. She broke the silence first. "Before you assume this is just a betrayed wife's revenge, I want to be clear, I'm broken too. But I went after the truth. And now I want you to see what I found." Vanessa said she'd suspected her husband for months. Marcus kept making up late-night meetings, started locking his phone, changed clothes twice before leaving the house. Unlike Adam, she didn't have the patience to wait for everything to collapse on its own. She hired a private investigator, who quickly delivered proof. When she saw that Marcus's lover was Claire, and learned she was married, she realized there was another victim, and decided to reach out to him. The email with the videos was just the beginning. What shocked Adam even more was what came next. Vanessa said Claire and Marcus's affair was just the surface of something far uglier. The law firm where Claire worked, Preston & Locke, had a network of employees involved in legal manipulation during divorce cases. And it wasn't isolated. According to Vanessa's investigator, some lawyers at the firm encouraged staff to seduce spouses of wealthy clients, gather intimate information, plant it in legal documents, and use it to destroy the other party's reputation. Fake photos, altered evidence, forged testimonies. The goal was always the same: favor whoever paid more or was connected to the internal network. Claire, Vanessa said, was one of the most effective players. She knew how to get close, how to collect emotional details, and how to use them to build the narrative they wanted. There were records of similar cases, including false claims of abuse or spousal abandonment, all based on coldly constructed documents. The pattern was always the same: first, they gained the victim's trust, then they humiliated them, finally, they filed such aggressive lawsuits that the other side was left completely defenseless. Adam listened in silence. As Vanessa showed him papers, dates, and names of other affected spouses, his disgust grew. This wasn't just about Claire cheating. It was about being deceived, manipulated, and used as a pawn. He, who had always tried to live honestly, who believed in the logic of things, had been pulled into a dirty game without even realizing it. Before they parted, Vanessa looked him in the eye and said, "I'm going all the way with this. And I think you should too." They think they can play with people's lives without consequences. But they made a big mistake choosing their victims this time. Adam clutched the folder to his chest and thanked her. He knew he was far from the end. But for the first time, he held something more powerful than anger, concrete proof and the real identity of the woman he'd married. Adam returned home with the videos still vivid in his mind, but his face showed no anger or disappointment. He walked through the door with the same calm he always had, kissed Claire lightly on the cheek, and asked if she'd eaten dinner. She gave a forced smile and said she'd had something quick at the office. He nodded and went to take a shower, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Inside, Adam was burning. Outside, he was the same husband as always, kind, quiet, reserved. He knew one wrong move could alert Claire and ruin everything. This woman was too manipulative to underestimate. The next morning, before Claire even woke up, Adam left the house with one clear goal: to find the one person who could help him turn all this mess into justice. He went to the office of Rita Caldwell, a lawyer he'd admired years ago when she dismantled a complex corporate fraud case during a property division trial. She was known for her sharp mind, absolute discretion, and strategic coldness. As soon as the receptionist announced him, Rita came out to meet him personally. Adam explained everything in detail. He showed her the videos, the messages, the documents Vanessa Bell had given him. He told her his wife was part of a group within Preston and Locke that manipulated divorces, fabricated false accusations, and destroyed spouses' reputations to benefit their clients, all under the guise of legality. Rita listened without interrupting. She read the files carefully. When she finished, she closed the folder and said firmly, "If half of this is verified by official sources, what you have is enough to bring down at least 3 people. But before we drop the bomb, we're going to protect everything that's yours." She began laying out a plan. The first step was protecting Adam's assets by moving part of his wealth into a new legal account linked to an inactive company he already owned. That would prevent Claire from freezing funds if she felt threatened. Then, she instructed Adam not to change his behavior toward her at all. It was crucial that she kept thinking he was unaware, vulnerable, naive. Only then could they gather uncontaminated evidence. Adam returned home with clear instructions: start recording conversations, take screenshots of text messages, and monitor Claire's financial behavior. Everything had to be documented. Their home became a silent surveillance zone. For example, on a Monday, Claire said she was going to the doctor. Adam checked the shared location and saw she spent 3 hours in a commercial district near a cafe where Marcus often worked on home office days. He didn't say anything. Made pancakes for dinner. Waited for her to come home. Said he missed their time together. She responded with a kiss on the shoulder and an excuse about being mentally drained. Another night, she left her laptop open on the table. Adam quickly scanned the open tabs. One was a legal forum titled, "Advantages in Claiming Emotional Abandonment." Another was an internal office group chat between Claire and someone named Howard, who Adam later recognized as a partner at Preston and Locke. The messages used technical terms, but it was clear they were preparing something big. Adam took photos of the screen with his phone and saved them in an encrypted folder, as Rita had advised. Days passed with Claire growing more distant physically, yet calm, as if everything were under control. And that was exactly what Adam wanted. He wanted her to laugh, to mock, to keep believing she could knock him down as easily as deleting a message. The plan was in motion. And no one knew, except him, Rita, and Vanessa. What Claire didn't realize was that with every new lie, every meeting with Marcus, every flimsy excuse, she was digging her own grave deeper. And Adam just smiled, took care of the house, and coldly planned the day she wouldn't be able to escape. Claire left for work like always. Said she had an external meeting and might come home late. Adam made breakfast, wished her a good day, and kissed her forehead. She smiled, thanked him, and left calmly. She had no idea that this seemingly normal routine was about to collapse. As soon as she walked out, Adam sent the pre-arranged message to Rita, "All set. Start the protocol." The reply came in under 2 minutes, "It ends today." Hours earlier, Rita had finalized the complete dossier with all the collected evidence, videos, messages, screenshots, bank statements, suspicious transactions under Claire's name, and her connections to Marcus and partner Howard. The material had already been sent to the prosecutor, who, given the volume of evidence and the clarity of the criminal scheme, authorized immediate action. Preston and Locke was too big to fall quietly. Police would accompany the execution of search and seizure warrants, with special attention to Claire Holloway, Marcus Bell, and Howard Lamont. While everything unfolded in the legal world, Adam stuck to his routine. He washed the breakfast dishes, organized a few spreadsheets, and, as planned with Rita, left home at his usual time. He drove to the accounting firm where he worked, but stayed in his car, parked, waiting for the call that would change everything. His phone rang. The detective's voice was dry and direct, "It's happening now." The Preston and Locke office was raided by a team from the prosecutor's office, accompanied by investigators specializing in crimes against justice. Phones were seized, computers sealed, documents carried away in locked boxes. Claire was at her desk, laughing with a coworker, when her name was called. She raised her hands, surprised, and asked what was going on. An officer read the formal charges aloud: conspiracy, procedural fraud, emotional extortion for financial gain. Her expression changed instantly. There was no time to deny anything. They already knew everything. Marcus tried to intervene but was also handcuffed. Howard, the partner, claimed he wasn't involved in any scheme, but investigators already had copies of emails directly implicating him. The whole structure collapsed in under 30 minutes. Claire's name, once limited to internal memos and petitions, was now central to a criminal investigation that could lead to preventive detention and a multi-million-dollar civil lawsuit. Rita had told Adam not to go near the building. Everything had to follow legal protocol. But he watched from a distance, on his phone screen, through a live stream someone from a neighboring building had started. Office employees were evacuated. Claire walked out dazed, handcuffed, being led away from the place where she believed she was untouchable. That night, Adam came home to find the kitchen exactly as he'd left it. Claire's coffee cup with lipstick was still on the table. Her phone, seized by the investigation team along with other devices, was gone. Her car remained parked in front of the firm, as if she'd just stepped out for a quick meeting. But at that moment, Claire was in an interrogation room. A few hours later, Adam received her first call. Her voice was shaky, more from panic than guilt. She asked if he knew what was happening. Said she needed his help. Tried to say it was all a misunderstanding, that she knew nothing. He listened in silence. When she asked if he could talk to someone for her, Adam replied firmly, "I'm just trying to understand who I've been married to all these years." Then he hung up. 2 days later, she showed up unexpectedly at his house. She was out on bail but under court restrictions, wearing an electronic ankle monitor and banned from approaching the office until the investigation concluded. She begged to come in. Said she needed to talk, to explain, that everything had spiraled out of control. Adam let her in. She was shaking. Crying. Tried to hug him. Said she loved him, that Marcus and Howard had pressured her, that she didn't know how to get out. Tried to explain the videos. Said she was confused, that she said those things because she felt insecure in the marriage, that it was just provocation. Adam listened until the end. Sitting, eyes fixed on her, he asked if she'd ever thought about the consequences. If, at any moment while laughing with Marcus in motels, she remembered who paid for the house, the plans, the dreams. Claire went silent. Said she was sorry. That she'd do anything to fix it. That she'd leave the firm, hand over evidence against her colleagues. Said he just needed to withdraw the complaint. That she couldn't handle going to jail. That she didn't want to destroy her own life. He stood up, opened a folder on the table and placed it in front of her. It was the initial divorce petition, with all evidentiary attachments. He said that even if he wanted to, it had already gone too far. The prosecutor wasn't acting on a betrayed husband's grudge. This was an organized scheme. And now it was public. Claire held the papers with trembling hands. She dropped to her knees, crying. Begged for forgiveness. Said she'd do anything to turn back time. Adam just watched. And for the first time in a long while, he felt peace. Claire got up, handed back the papers, and left. He closed the door and, in that moment, knew the marriage had ended long before the facade fell. She was just finally reaping what she'd sown. And he, at last, was starting to live again. The divorce was finalized in under 4 months. The judge reviewed the documents Rita had submitted and recognized the severity of the situation, both personally and legally. The assets Claire assumed she'd easily split remained mostly with Adam. The house, investments, part of the movable property, and the private pension plan she didn't even know he had, all stayed with him. The ruling considered clear bad faith, signs of fraud, and the emotional toll Adam had endured while being deceived. Claire left with the bare minimum, a modest car, a frozen account, and a tarnished record. Even after the final ruling, criminal investigations continued. Howard was formally indicted. Marcus struck a plea deal and handed over internal office documents in exchange for a reduced sentence. Claire tried the same, but because her involvement was both emotional and operational, and because the videos of her mocking victims and suggesting manipulations were part of the case, the deal was rejected. The prosecution argued she acted with full awareness and clear intent to harm. The charges against her weren't dropped. Claire Holloway's name ended up in local news, legal websites, and even lawyer discussion forums. She became a symbol of the kind of professional the justice system was tired of protecting. Adam followed everything from a distance. He'd returned to his work routine, avoided discussing the case with coworkers, and focused on rebuilding. He wasn't seeking revenge. He just wanted to preserve the dignity that had nearly been stripped from him. He started going to the gym in the mornings, picked up the guitar again on Saturday nights, and reconnected with old friends he'd drifted from during the marriage. His life didn't get better overnight. There was exhaustion, memories, emotional echoes. But there was also a kind of silence that brought comfort, the silence of truth exposed, of a clear conscience, of the end of a lie he never created. One day, while organizing old documents in the basement, he found a box of letters and photos from when he and Claire first got together. Inside were love declarations, handwritten plans, sketches of a future house, even a list of baby names they might have used someday. It hit him in an unexpected way, not with nostalgia, but with the realization of how deeply someone could change, to the point of using love as a weapon. He put everything back, locked the box, and left it where it was. Some feelings don't deserve to be burned, but they don't deserve to live in the light either. A month after the divorce, Adam received a surprise visit. Vanessa Bell showed up at his office with an envelope. She said her own case had concluded and she was leaving town. She thanked him for being a quiet ally in the chaos and handed him a copy of a letter Claire had written from jail. It wasn't addressed to him directly. Claire had written it to her sister, but the correspondence was intercepted by Vanessa's legal team, which still monitored everything tied to Marcus. In the letter, Claire admitted she got involved with Marcus only to get to Howard. She said she knew about the firm's corruption, that relationships were used as currency, and that she never truly loved Marcus. She also admitted she considered getting pregnant just to keep Adam tied to her longer, afraid of being discarded like so many other cases the firm helped bury. The letter was an informal confession, but it served as proof of the moral decay Claire had fallen into. Adam read it all calmly. He closed the envelope, thanked Vanessa, and wished her well in her new city. That night, He went for a walk along the waterfront and thought about everything he'd lived through in the past months. He realized he'd long believed he was weak for not reacting with shouting or destruction. That he thought he was a coward for not confronting Claire in the heat of anger. But there, under a quiet sky with no one to impress, he understood it was the opposite. His strength came from silence, patience, and emotional intelligence, things she never had. And unlike her, he still had the chance to start over without carrying the weight of lies. Weeks later, he received an offer to lead a complex audit in another state. The kind of challenge he'd always dreamed of, but had postponed because he was trapped in a life that no longer existed. He accepted. Sold the house. Left the car and some belongings with a foundation that supported victims of marital fraud. He moved cities with just enough to live lightly, but with the emotional baggage of someone who'd survived the worst kind of betrayal, the kind that happens when you're busy caring for someone. Adam never saw Claire again, nor did he care to know if she was on parole or formally convicted. The only certainty he held was that no matter how much the world tried to cover up certain truths, nothing stays hidden forever. And in the end, justice isn't just what happens in court, it's what each person carries when they lay their head on the pillow. Claire, with everything she did, destroyed herself. Adam, with everything he endured, found a life he never knew he deserved. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.